Hello students, let us discuss the next part of the lesson, understanding poverty. Already we have discussed about poverty in the previous class and we have taken some examples of artisans like Ramachari, a carpenter, how he was suffered because of decline in the production of and activities of agriculture. So here poverty means who are not having purchasing power to feed their families. So those are called, that is called poverty. So the family who are earning less than 27,000 rupees per annum comes under BPL, below poverty line. Usually the according to national caloric standards, so 2400 and 2100 calories per day should be consumed by rural and urban workers, but in our country most of the workers, 4 out of 5 persons in rural areas and 3 out of 5 persons in urban areas are taking inadequate food. Okay, next, food inequalities. So people, most of the percentage of people not taking adequate food. Okay, so to know that our government did some surveys, so they collect some information about economic and social conditions of the people. So by this survey, large number of households across the country and compile this information on various items. So by this we understand what is happening to employment, spending capacity of people, schooling, health, across access to drinking water, etc. We can understand by this information. So that data is particularly useful to know whether the government policies are moving in the right direction or not. So all these facilities reaching to the people who are needy or not, we can understand. Okay, so here caloric intake was drawn using information collected during national sample survey done in 2004. So according to that, caloric intake differs widely across the poor and the rich. So here one table given. According to this table, so people with very low income can spend very little and consume 1624 calories on an average. So here total population divided into 4 quarters. So this is bottom quarter. So the first 25% of the people are taking only 1624 calorie food per day, and the second quarter they are consuming 1900 calories food, and third quarter so 2143, and the fourth quarter consuming 2521. We can call these are rich. So when income is increasing and spending capacity increases, the caloric intake rises. Okay, so the caloric intake of the poorest people is very less, and the caloric intake of rich people is more high than standard calories. Okay, so for every large percentage of people, their daily food intake doesn't meet the caloric requirement. So all the people whose food calorie intake falls below the calorie standard can be considered as poor or BPL. So most of the people not taking adequate food in our country and states also. So take one activity here. So to calculate whether nourished or undernourished in adults, we can take one activity. So that is called BMI, body mass index. So this is easy to calculate. Measure the weight of the person in kgs, then measure the height in meters, divide the weight by the square of the height. So if the body mass index shows less than 18.5, then the person would be considered undernourished. So where if this BMI is more than 25, then a person is overweight. So by doing this activity, we can find either the people are taking adequate food or not around us. Okay, next, why poverty? How can it be eliminated? So the most important contributor to poverty, so that is lack of regular employment. So most of the people in our country depending on agriculture, they are not getting regular work. Okay, so in the absence of employment opportunities, so people lack the purchasing power or income to fulfill their basic needs. So if they don't have work, they don't get salary or income. That's why they don't have a lack of purchasing power. So they are unable to buy goods. Okay, so chronic hunger is one of the fallouts of this lack of minimum purchasing power. So how to improve the purchasing power? That is more important. So by providing employment. Okay, next, agriculture, sources of livelihood. So more than 50% of the people in India still depend upon agricultural activities. So at the time of independence, 90% of people were depending on agriculture. Now also, because of there is no more development in the industry and other sectors, that's why people, 50% of people are depending on agriculture for their livelihood. Most of them are small farmers and agriculture laborers. So besides, there are persons whose occupancies are allied to agriculture, like the carpenter Ramachari. So many artisans, professional persons in rural area also depend on agriculture. If agriculture is prosperous, then farmers, laborers, as well as the people who are depending on agriculture will be get more income. If not, they also unable to earn more income. Okay, so already we have taken one example about Ramachari. So Ramachari had 40 clients in the beginning. Later, because of technology, the clients reduced year by year. That's why his income was also reduced. So his wife migrated to urban area to work in a chapel company. Like that, so many people from rural areas migrated to urban areas for their livelihood. Since the well-being and livelihood of so many people is dependent on agriculture, it is very important that agriculture grows well. So now, to improve their income, to improve their livelihood, so government should provide some facilities to the farmer to improve the agriculture. Okay, then agriculture prosperous. It would normally generate employment and income for the people in the rural areas. That is more important. So to improve the agriculture, the government, what the facility should provide by government. One is irrigation facility, so proper seeds, proper fertilizers and pesticides, okay, like that. So also when agriculture products is abundant, so prices of food items are likely to be more affordable for people than they would otherwise be. So when production is increased, supply is increased, then the prices of the goods, vegetables, pulses, cereals will be decreased, then the people can able to buy, they can affordable. Okay, so at present there are a variety of problems plugging and faced by the agriculture people. So already you read all those problems in the previous classes. So those are lack of water for irrigation, lack of loans at reasonable interest rates, and lack of reliable seeds and fertilizers and pesticides for cropping. So another one is the high cost of inputs, low yields, and frequent crop failures have led a acute farmer distress. These are the problems the farmers are facing. Most small farmers also forced to work as agricultural laborers in order to make the ends meet. So who are having 2 acres or 1 acre or 1.5 acre, they do activities in their fields and they work as laborers in other fields to earn more income to meet their needs. Okay. In fact, 4 out of 5 members in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh are like small farmers or farm laborers. So here, what steps government should take to improve the lives of the farmers? So we can discuss here. So one is timely provision of seeds, fertilizers, pesticides by the government so that the farmers does not have to depend on middlemen or traders. So at the time of rainy season, people will stay morning to evening to get seeds from the shops. Okay, so sometimes the middleman or private traders exploit the farmers. So to avoid this, the government should provide seeds, fertilizers, pesticides to the farmers. Even though the government must ensure that these products are of standard quality and reasonably priced. So quality seeds and with less price if you provide to the farmers, so they can do farming properly. Next, small irrigation projects. They should construct small irrigation projects in their villages. Timely availability of bank loans at reasonable interest rates. So at the time of rainy season, so banks should give the loans to the farmers to buy inputs like seeds, fertilizers, pesticides and other some tools. Okay. Next, outlets are marketing the crops at a fair price for producers. So minimum price should be provided. Development of roads and transport system in the countryside. Assistance to farmers in case of crop failure. If these facilities provide to the farmers, then their farming will be prosperous. So they can provide employment and they can share their profits to other people like laborers, okay, and other people. Next, other livelihood options. In Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, nearly 2/5 of all rural families are mainly agricultural laborers. These families are mostly landless and others cultivate very little land. The opportunities of work are very limited. So these people get work in the rainy season or harvesting season only. Okay, most of these people get 120 to 180 days work per annum. Okay, so there are long stretches of lean season when practically no work is available on the fields. So at the time people migrate nearby villages or other areas. In years when the crops fail due to droughts, floods, pest attack, any other calamity, the number of days of agriculture work are further reduced. In normal days they get only 120 to 180 days. At the time of other abnormal days, years, they don't get that much work also. These are the times when large scale migrations happen and acute distress and hunger strikes the countryside. Okay, so to avoid this, government implementing right to work. So the right to work states that everyone should be given to opportunity to work for a basic living. So that is the right of the laborers. So the Indian Constitution refers to the right to work under the Directive Principles of State Policy. Article 41 stresses that the state shall, within the limits of its economic capacity and development, make effective provision for securing right to work. So the government should show the work to the people minimum 100 days. However, people have never been able to exercise these rights. The government could start public works and works would be employed. Workers would be employed, but people generally could not demand work when they required or somewhere close to their homes. So actually, the people have right to work. So government should provide work to them when they don't have work or minimum 100 days work for a year. After years of struggle by people's groups, the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act 2005 MNREGA was passed. It was a major breakthrough towards the protection of livelihoods in rural areas, especially it is implementing in rural areas. So we discuss about the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act. So shall we take one example of Baleshwar Mahato, a resident of Bihar, Arsaria district, goes to Punjab every year in search of work to sustain his family. He had planned to go there this June as well. So however, he got employment in MNREGA in his own village, so he decided to stay back. So a large number of people from Araria are forced to look for work in Punjab, Delhi and Gujarat, as employment has hard to find locally. So at the time unseasonal. So these people migrate to different places like Punjab, Delhi and Gujarat for search of work. But now they are staying at their villages because they are getting work under Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act 2005. Okay, so however, in the cities, the migrant workers live in deplorable conditions with no access to basic facilities, so such as shelter, sanitation, or even safe drinking water. So who migrates from the villages to urban areas? So those are facing different problems. They are living in slums, so even they never get any basic facilities also. Okay, so sometimes they leave their families in the villages, and because of that, family relations also affect. So MNREGA is a triple bonus for Bilaswar, like Bilaswar, all workers. So what are the triple bonuses? One is, apart from providing local employment, so they need not to go other village, need not to migrate. First one, it enables him to combine this work with tending his own fields and spending more time with his family. So under this scheme, they do work in their village only, in their fields only, to develop the irrigation. So they work in their fields and they can spend more time with his family. These are the triple benefits got by the people like Balaswar. So MNREGA lays down that any adult member willing to do unskilled manual work and who is looking for work must be given work by the government. So this is the aim of this scheme. So the adult member who are willing or who are seeking work. Okay. So a rural household can demand at least 100 days of employment in a year for which they would be paid not below the minimum wages. Under this scheme, they paid more wages, which is fixed by the government. That is called minimum wages. So the following are some of sample activities taken up under MNREGA. Which work they do under MNREGA, we will see. So first, water conservation and water harvesting improvements. They do water conservation. They construct some, they repair tank bunds, or they construct water harvesting structures under this scheme. Drought proofing, including afforestation and tree plantation. So under this scheme, they plant the trees. Okay. Provisions of irrigation facilities to land owned by households belonging to the SC and STs. So they will provide some irrigation facilities. They dig canals, small canals, to reach water to their lands. Next, renovation of traditional water bodies, including desilting of tanks. So these are the traditional water bodies of every villages. Tanks. So they repair tank bunds, and they plant the trees on the tank bunds to strengthen the tank bunds, and they do desilt. They remove the silt which is accumulated in the tank bunds to store more water. So under this scheme, they implement all these works with the help of the local people. So the local people provide minimum 100 days work under this scheme. Like that, people will get more income in season. Clear? So next part of the lesson we'll discuss tomorrow. Thank you.